Alright, here we go. 3.5c. Let's continue finding least common denominators so that we can add or subtract numbers. So we're going to do one like this. 3 minus 5 6. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a fraction. Okay? I'm going to make this into 3 over 1. So now I have 1 and its prime factors, well, 1. And my 6, its prime factors are 2 times 3. Okay. That means that if I circle, well, you know, the 1 isn't going to change the value of anything. You can circle it if you want because it occurs the most. 2 occurs the most, and 3 occurs the most because there aren't any up here. So my least common denominator is 1 times 2 times 3, which is 6. So we're going to replace our 1 with a 6, and our 6 is going to stay a 6. Because we didn't change that. I mean, it was the least common denominator. So if that's the case, and it's 6, and it's this, then you put the 6 there. Doesn't matter if it's the same or not. So how did we get from 1 to 6? Well, we multiplied it times 6. So we multiplied this times 6. 6 to 6. Didn't do squat to it. So we're not going to do anything to the 5. Now we're going to subtract. 18 minus 5 is 13 over 6, and that's where we'll leave it. Alright, let's do another one. Now this one is going to look a little bit tricky. We're going to take 4 over x and we're going to add 2/3. Alright, so let's do the same thing. X. What are its factors? Well, we don't even know what x is. So as far as we're concerned, x is its own factor, and that's all. 3, well, it's a prime number, so it's just 3. So this occurs the most. This occurs the most. So we put them together, and we get a 3x for our common denominator. Well, what did we multiply by x to get 3x? A 3. Because 3 times x, we just put them together and get a 3x. So we multiply the 3 times the x. So we have to multiply the 4 times 3. This 3, what did we have to multiply to get 3x? Well, an x. So we have to multiply the top by an x. Which seems kind of strange, but 2 times x is the same as 3 times x, giving you 3x. 2 times x gives you 2x. Then we put stuff together. And even though that looks strange, that's all you can do with it. Okay? Another method of doing this one, and this might help you a little bit, let's start over here. A lot of times what I'll do when I'm teaching this is I'll say, alright, I have an x here. If I have variables on the bottom, like an x, I will look here and say, alright, what am I missing here that I have in my other denominator? Well, I'm missing a 3. So I'm going to put a 3 here. Well, if I put a 3 here, I also have to put it up there. And I look over here, in my original problem, what am I missing here that I have here? An x. So I have to multiply both sides by that. And sometimes that makes it easier rather than doing your prime factors here and, you know, taking up more room and trying to figure it out. Because now I have 12 over 3x plus 2x over 3x, and I get the same thing as I did earlier. So, if that's easier to do that way, or if you can't even see any difference, I guess don't worry about it, but that's usually the way I do it. Alright, let's do one final one. X over 2, and let's add 3x over 4. Okay, so 2, its factors are just 2 because it's prime. 4, we're going to change that to 2 times 2. This occurs more often than this one. So our least common denominator is going to be 4. Alright, and this one's going to be 4. So what did we have to do to get from 2 to 4? Multiply by 2, and that gives me 2x. 4 to 4, I did nothing, so I don't do anything to the top. Okay, which gives me 2x plus 3x over 4. Notice my numerators. I have 2 numbers, and I have 2 variables that are the same variables. That means I can combine those. So I have 2 x's and 3 x's. So it's just like we said earlier. It's just like saying I have 2 quarters plus 3 quarters. So I have 5x's over 4. And at that point, I'm done. Alright. So, the problem set 3.5 is exactly like every problem I did for you in problem set 3.5 B and C. So there should not be anything that is in the least bit difficult or that we haven't done. So just kind of glancing through here, why don't we try something like, well, let's look at 68 on page 211. 68 has 2/3, and then they put the x here, plus 5, 6, and they put the x here. So because we have variables, and they're the same variables, all we're doing is adding the numbers. So what we're doing is we're taking 2/3 plus 5, 6, adding those together and sticking an x on them when we're done. Okay? So the x isn't really a part of this because we're not going to do anything with it. We'll just tag it onto the answer. But in this case, you're just finding your common denominators. So you've got your 3, it's a prime number, so it's 3, and our 6 is going to turn into 2 times 3. Well, our 2 occurs once here and none up there, and our 3, remember, if it occurs at the same time, just circle one of them, which gives us the common denominator of 6. So we have 6 here and 6 here. What did we do to go from 3 to 6? Multiply by 2, multiply the top one by 2. Here, 6 to 6 didn't do anything, don't do anything to the top. Add those together, 9 over 6, and we tag on the x, and we're good to go there as far as that is concerned. Going to be doing some reducing later, but one of the things that you'll notice about 9 over 6 is look and see if, well, in fact, what we can do, we can just do that. We can write it as prime factors and then get rid of those two, which leaves us with 3 over 2x, and that's actually what we're going to want as an answer. So when you get your fraction, make sure you can't break it down into its prime factors and divide out the common terms so that you're left with 3/2 over x. Alright, so I think that's about it for the problem set 3.5. If you look at some of the story problems, in fact, let's look at number 82 on page 212. Gives you a long story problem with a lot of information, but you only need a little bit. Enrollment figures show that the most popular programs at a local college are liberal arts studies and business programs. The liberal arts studies program accounts for 1/5 of the student enrollment, while business accounts for 1/10 of the enrollment. What fraction of student enrollment chooses one of these two areas of study? So they're saying, I want the ones that choose liberal arts as well as the ones that choose business, and I want those two together. So all we're going to do is take 1/5 and add it to 1/10. So they're giving you a story problem, 6, 7 lines of text, and all they're asking you to do is take 1/5 plus 1/10 together, find your common denominators, add them, and you've got your answer there. So that's all we're doing for 3.5. So go ahead and turn off, and we're good to go.